Aliens are real and they're abducting everybody, so put on your tinfoil hats or get probed. Wait a minute. I either wear this hat or I get probed? Catchy theme song, yeah, yeah. On today's installment of Let Me Watch That For You, we are discussing the movie No One Will Save You, which is streaming on Hulu. The interesting thing about this movie is that there's about 10 lines of dialogue throughout the entire film. Most of the storytelling is done visually, which I think is a very unique way to tell a story about aliens. My only problem is that I usually watch movies while I'm playing video games and texting, so for those of you who need to always be overstimulated, I hope I can explain what happens in an entertaining way and also point out things you may have missed while you were trying to pick up a beehive with your friends in Lethal Company. Front note.
Chaos,
No!
chaos.
Wait, we were gonna do this! What is wrong with you? The movie opens on our main character, Bryn, practicing her smile in the mirror and getting ready to start her day. She heads downstairs and has a table full of figurines and what appears to be a replica of her town. You can see some of it's homemade. She's got like buttons on her cupcake shop. And so far we can gather that Bryn is a bit of a reclusive introvert with a nerdy hobby. She's us. We cut to her sewing a dress and putting it in a shipping envelope, and her Etsy shop must be popping off because homegirl has a 2-story house with a yard. Based on some context clues, this movie takes place around the year it was made, which was 2023. So Bryn better be pulling in bank. Bryn heads outside and notices a suspicious circle of dying grass, but foolishly doesn't immediately jump to the conclusion that aliens are invading, and instead waters the grass and gets in her car. We see a bird's eye view shot of the car driving, but in this film, I think it's fitting to call it an alien's eye view. We then see Bryn drive by her neighbor's house, and she smiles and waves at him, and he gives her the same look that men give me when I try to approach them. I believe the kids would say Bryn's Rizzler did not skibidi. She heads into town to mail her dress, but she's acting a little dodgy around people, like she doesn't want to get noticed. So at this point, it seems like Bryn did something to make the town hate her. Will we ever find out what it is? Yes, if you watch to the end of this video. Bryn takes a moment to visit her mother's grave, and we know it's her mother's grave because the grave says she was Bryn's mother. I'm surprised there wasn't an arrow pointing to Bryn carved in it. We can see that Bryn's mom passed away in 2019, which helps us figure out when this movie takes place. Also, it's possible that Bryn lives off an inheritance instead of charging $20,000 for a homemade sundress. On the way back to her car, Bryn spies on this older couple as they kiss, but you can tell based on her expression that she wasn't being a total perv. She was just trying to avoid them for some reason. Sus. Oh my god, she has a pond? This movie was shot in Louisiana, so maybe everyone out there has a pond in their backyard. I don't know, but I've never felt worse about renting a 2-bedroom, 2-bathroom apartment than I do at this very moment. On the dock of her pond, ooh, I have a pond, Bryn writes a letter to someone named Maud. We gather from the letter that the people Bryn hid from were Maud's parents. Bryn's writing session gets cut short when she hears the mailman pull up and he throws her package at her mailbox. When Bryn goes to pick up her package, we can see that her mailbox has been dented, like it's been hit with a baseball bat. And it's very evident that people do not like Bryn. It's time for a dance break montage. Bryn's whole aesthetic is very old school, which is one of the reasons why I wasn't quite sure when this movie takes place when I initially watched it. She sets out numbered shoe prints with arrows pointing her where to go for the next dance step, which I can't help but wonder, how do you set that up without already knowing the steps that you're trying to teach yourself? Like, wouldn't you need someone who knows the steps to then place the shoe prints in the correct spots so that you can then dance correctly? Sorry. Anyway, Bryn opens her package and it's a miniature schoolhouse, and she is super excited to add it to her town. She writes another letter to Maud saying she can't believe it's been 10 years. So clearly something happened a decade ago that is still haunting her to this day. I mean, I have times where I'm trying to go to bed and I randomly remember something embarrassing that I did from years ago and I just lie there cringing the night away. So I can't say that I don't relate. The rest of the night is spent dancing, drinking wine, cooking, and ignoring harassing phone calls. All in all, I say it's a pretty sweet night. She punctuates her letter by writing, "I don't think I'll ever forgive myself." So again, we are really building up to something terrible she did years ago. We get our first glimpse of Maud via a photo on Bryn's mirror as she's getting ready for bed. While Bryn is asleep, all of her lights flash on and then off again before she wakes up from hearing a rattling outside by her trash cans. She puts on a nightgown and slippers and goes to investigate, but freezes at the top of her stairs when she sees that her front door is open. We can barely see into her living room and kitchen from the view on the stairs, but we hear something rummaging around, and as the subtitles say, chittering. We are 10 minutes into this movie, and there's already an alien B&E. How exciting. Bryn starts to back away and makes a creak on her stairs, so she rushes to her bedroom. And she goes to hide underneath her bed, but it's too cluttered, which I thought was very realistic. I will never be able to hide under my bed if an alien breaks into my house. She ends up hiding on the other side of the bed, facing away from the door, as we hear the alien sprint up the stairs and then gingerly push open the bedroom door. Bryn manages to slide enough under the bed just as the alien jumps on top of it, and we are treated to a shot of them alien grippers. They're like little hands, which I just think is way cooler than these damned human feet we've been cursed with. The alien floats out the window and Bryn rushes to shut her front door when all of the lights turn back on. She unplugs as many devices as she can before she runs to the phone to call for help. We hear an ear-piercing sound when she picks it up, which leads Bryn to hide in a little nook between her counter and her fridge. Or is it a cranny? Nooks and crannies. I guess I haven't heard of nooks or crannies. Well, be it nook or cranny, the alien opens the fridge door with what looks to be telepathic powers and traps Bryn. We see its long fingers slowly curl over the door before its bulbous head pops up. Bryn pushes the refrigerator and books it to her front door before it gets blown off of its hinges and smacks her right in the face. Oof! Bryn crawls to her miniature town before the alien rudely flips the table with its powers, breaking the town into pieces, including the schoolhouse that she just bought today. I don't think you could return it to the store and say an alien broke it. Well, maybe you'd get store credit. The alien then Jean Greys Bryn across the floor as she desperately grabs anything to hold on to. The alien uses its powers to lift her up and spin her around so that they're face to face. As she spins around, we hear a squelch. As we're shown, Bryn had a piece of the schoolhouse miniature in her hand and is now lodged into the alien's head. It kind of looks like the alien was about to talk. I was half expecting it to say something like, "Oh my god, you just stabbed me in the head, what the heck?" But instead it just falls over dead. Bryn is so shocked by the events that just took place that she sits on the floor, staring at the alien all night. House to herself, eating, dancing, and ending the night catatonic on the floor. At this point, this could be a documentary about what I do every weekend. Bryn finally comes to and throws a blanket on the alien's body. She does a quick scan of the house and learns that the phone line is dead, the electricity's out, her car won't start, but the water still works, so she takes a shower, and we get a scene oddly reminiscent of the opening shot of Bryn getting ready to go into town, only this time, she is going to need to come face to face with the people who have been hating her for a decade. On her bike ride into town, we stumble across the mail truck and it's been flipped over, but there's no sign of the mailman. And in the nearby neighbor's yard, we see more of those dying circles in the grass. And now Bryn has come to the logical conclusion that aliens are invading. Bryn walks into the police station and comes face to face with Maud's parents. We see on his badge that Maud's dad is the chief police officer, so he's probably not the person you want to have a personal vendetta against you. Maud's mom spits in Bryn's face, and I would have gone full New York on Pumpkin. But Bryn is a bigger person than I am. Giving up on going to the police, even though I do think having the body of an alien would lend your unbelievable story some credibility, Bryn has a brief mental breakdown by a mural, and I want to say it's a painting of Maud. Even though it doesn't look exactly like her, I assume the movie wants us to associate girls with red hair to represent Maud either way. Bryn gets the idea to leave town when she sees a bus drive by, which I think is the next logical thing to do. I like when scary movies have people do realistic things. It just makes me root for them more. It's also worth noting that it seems like the cars in town still work, so the aliens have only attacked people on the outskirts. Bryn goes full celebrity incognito with her hat and sunglasses and sighs in relief as the bus starts driving away. It's short-lived when we get an alien's eye view of the bus driving past more circles in the grass. And a passenger at the back of the bus gets up and sits right behind Bryn. She gets up to move and he grabs her. And it turns out to be the mailman, and it seems that he's either being controlled by an alien or he's been body swapped. We'll learn more about that later, but it's clear that he wants to capture Bryn. He pushes some guy by the face, which made me laugh a little bit. Bryn really fights back, which again makes you root for her. We want Bryn to get out of this. The bus driver slams on the brakes and Bryn books it out of there, and we get my favorite shot in the movie that hopefully I can show you without getting the wrath of YouTube. Yeah. Bryn ends up running to the town's church, because at this point I guess asking for divine intervention couldn't hurt. The church is locked, and Bryn reluctantly gives a sigh of, well, what else am I gonna do? And walks over to the church's graveyard, where we see Maud's grave. So we now at least can confirm that something happened to Maud 10 years ago, and now the town hates Bryn because of it. The sky gets dark as clouds start rolling in with thunder and lightning. It looks like the aliens hide their ships in these clouds, or the ships themselves produce these clouds. Either way, the aliens are here. Bryn stumbles upon what appears to be a flash mob rehearsal before she is spotted by the guy she waved to at the beginning. We get a look at some sort of bug thing in his throat controlling him. And this is a niche reference, but it's kind of like that bug robot thing from Resident Evil 5 that controls Jill Valentine.
I don't want to hurt you!
Anyway, Bryn books it home and is now truly on her own. I guess you could say, no one will save you. Bryn does a quick body check of the alien and notices a gross snail trail leading from the body into the yard. It seems like something crawled out of the alien's mouth, and we can assume it was one of those bug things. Clouds then start to gather over Bryn's home, and she takes a moment to center herself before going full Kevin McAllister on these aliens. We get another montage of Bryn grabbing a lighter and lighting all of the 4 gas burners on her stove. She also starts boiling 4 pots of water. She grabs a box cutter, she closes the windows, and nails a blanket to cover the hole that was left when the front door blew off. Now I know the aliens are showing off because they start to slowly push out the nails that were holding up the blanket before just blasting it away with a big beam of light. The light then lifts up the alien's body with the schoolhouse bell still ringing before flying away. Bryn takes this moment to run to the basement, and we see a little alien monkey drop in onto her front porch. In the basement, we get that classic alien wow to let us know that alien technology is doing something as another alien enters through the cellar door. This one is straight up Roger from American Dad, just a little taller. Bryn grabs a pair of sewing scissors from her supplies before the alien jump scares her and pulls a Prue Halliwell and flicks her scissors out of her hands like he's got the power of 3 on his side. Bryn has a childhood photo of herself and Maud in her other hand, which the alien also yoinks and looks at it curiously while Bryn runs upstairs and shuts the door. Upstairs, it's time for Bryn to go mano e alieno. The monkey-looking alien does a silly little tiptoe behind Bryn with its arms in the air before it pounces on her and tackles her to the ground. Bryn takes a bite out of its arm and she runs to her boiling pots of water. She starts launching these pots at this alien and she ends up sort of slipping on some of the water that's spilled. Eventually, the alien ship shoots a tractor beam inside of the house and it pins Bryn's pot to the wall, so she's left weaponless and she starts backing away slowly. The monkey alien then makes a signal with its arms and the ship stops the tractor beam. Bryn backs slowly into her bathroom and shuts the door before the alien starts clawing its way in. And she ends up impaling it with a broken broom handle and breaks its face with a cabinet door. It still seems to be alive, so Bryn climbs out of the bathroom window and falls into the bushes below. Just when you think she has a minute to breathe, we see a
Jumbo alien
peeking over the shed. It chitters, according to the subtitles, and it seems to be signaling to the other aliens. Bryn backs up through her clothes drying on the line. Like, come on, you have a flat screen TV. I know you're going with the whole cottagecore aesthetic, but this is why I'm pro washer and dryer, so you don't accidentally bump into your possessed mailman. He drags Bryn by her hair to the middle of the yard, while the jumbo alien makes arm symbols and calls for the UFO. The sound effects build up, letting us know that a beam is about to shoot down, but Bryn scratches her way out of the mailman's grip and kicks him back right as the beam shoots out. The beam drops the mailman, and the UFO flies away. And the jumbo alien makes this sort of "aww" before it gets mad and chases after Bryn. There's a moment in the chase where it climbs over her house and slips off the roof. And I know it's not polite to laugh, but while the klutz picks itself up off the floor, Bryn crawls through her car, and the alien gets stuck in the window as she crawls out the other side. Not before taking a nasty gash in the back, though. Bryn takes out her lighter and freaking blows up her car with the alien still inside of it. Bryn kicks so much ass in this movie, I love it. But this movie doesn't let up. The tractor beam comes back for Bryn, and I know I've already mentioned American Dad once in this review, but I kept thinking of Steve Smith singing, "Tractor boy, got you in my tractor beam.
Tractor boy, got you in my tractor beam."
From the episode where he drives a tractor. Sorry. Anyway, Bryn runs back inside because tractor beams don't work indoors. Know the law.
Know the law.
Bryn runs up to the Brinny Bird room, which I believe is her childhood room, which is now turned into more of a storage space. We see her letters written to Maud, as well as pictures of the two young girls strung around the room. The alien from the basement, aka the only alien to face Bryn the Destroyer and live, enters the room and starts examining the photos. Bryn tries to sneak up behind him, but he just launches her through a wall. It seems like the more humanoid aliens are the only ones with telekinesis, and to be honest, I feel like that needs a nerf. Why would I pick monkey alien when I could have OP mind powers? Bryn tries to run away, but runs inside of a window and ends up getting the beam. It freezes her in place before it flings her up onto the ceiling. Then in comes Roger the alien, and it floats right up to her. It rolls its eyes back and coughs up one of those alien bug things, like a cat coughing up a hairball. Seeing it floating, it looks more like a parasite than a bug, so I apologize, but I'm not going back and changing the script. Once it slides into Bryn's mouth, we cut to Bryn screaming in her bed, waking up as if she just had a horrible nightmare. Was this whole thing a dream? Nope. Bryn heads downstairs and her whole house is still intact. She sees her miniature town, and all of a sudden, in walks an older version of Maud. We never get a clear look at her face because the aliens are making the screen glow all bright. But we get our first real line of dialogue when Bryn says, "I'm sorry, Maud," and ever so slightly changes her tone and says, "I'm sorry," before reaching into her own throat and pulling out the alien parasite with her bare hands. Have I mentioned how much ass Bryn kicks in this movie? Bryn is giving big Karen vibes right now.
I can put my whole fist in my mouth. Wanna see? No.
Back in the real world, Bryn tries to squish the little alien parasite with her hands, but it slips out before a UFO comes and shoots a beam right at the parasite, and it materializes evil Bryn. Good Bryn runs into the spooky forest before evil Bryn catches up to her. We get a confused stare before the tiniest little shriek from evil Bryn. Things are not looking good for our girl Bryn. She even does that movie thing where after someone gets stabbed, they kind of collapse into the person that stabbed them. But at the very last second, Good Bryn pushes away and we just hear a slice. It turns out Good Bryn still had her box cutter and she used it to slice evil Bryn's neck. I'm sure there's some symbolism here of literally destroying a version of yourself, but I'm not sure if we're that deep of a YouTube channel. Walking her stabbed self back on the road, Bryn sees another one of those jumbo aliens emerge from the fog, and it immediately calls a UFO and snatches her up so much faster than before. I guess they learned not to play around with Bryn because she keeps killing everyone. Is it time to get on the probulator?
Now strip naked and get on the probulator.
Bryn is forced to stand and watch as a group of aliens decide her fate. They make some weird throat noises and then touch her forehead with their bony long fingers. Bryn then becomes an observer to her own memories. We see a younger version of herself working on a model home with her mother. We see what looks like the police investigating what happened to Maud and Maud's father on his knees crying. And then we finally get to see the incident. Young Bryn and Maud are yelling at each other, and I don't think we ever know why. And Maud pushes young Bryn to the ground. In her anger, young Bryn grabs a rock as she's getting up and hits Maud in the head one time, and that's all it took. Bryn is then sitting at a table with her younger self, where we see her writing what I assume is her first letter to the deceased Maud. She's shown to be visibly upset and crying, which affects her handwriting, but she kind of writes like she's a baby. I'm sorry, that's not very nice. It's just what I was thinking. Adult Bryn reaches out and touches the hand of her younger self, in a way forgiving herself for her mistake and letting go of the past, while we see the aliens watching on as they make their decision about Bryn. They end up sending Bryn back down to Earth, not very lightly by the way, and Bryn looks up at the night sky smiling at all of the pretty alien lights. We get a bit of a time jump, perhaps a few days, and Bryn is once again shown getting ready in her mirror, but this time she's putting on lipstick and she's styling her hair differently. She seems happier and more confident. She hangs up a birdhouse at her neighbor's place, and he finally smiles and waves back at her. Maybe that's what I'm doing wrong. All the men I try to date are not possessed by alien parasites. Our final scene of the movie is Bryn dancing with her now nice neighbor, doing the dance she was practicing earlier in the movie. The whole town is there dancing and celebrating, and Bryn gestures right into the camera as it pans up, and we see UFOs floating in the sky as the credits roll. Let's have some final thoughts. It was a bit of an oddball ending that I definitely did not see coming. I said it in my last video and I'll say it again. I like it a lot when the main character of a horror movie lives and some sort of growth happens or lesson gets learned. Despite what happened in her past, Bryn chose to fight for her life and in the end found some sort of closure and peace. Granted, she found it in a world being taken over by aliens, but she didn't seem to mind. Bryn made the choice to remove the alien parasite after it got inside of her, so I assume that everyone else is living in that sort of fantasy world that we saw while Bryn had the parasite in her throat. Kind of like the Matrix, I guess. Does that make Bryn Neo? Oh my god, Bryn is an anagram for Oh wait, that means nothing. But you know what doesn't mean nothing? You clicking that subscribe button. I'm sorry. I really appreciate all the support you guys have been giving me. I have been wanting to make a YouTube movie review channel for years, but was too scared to do it. So thank you for giving me a bit of confidence to keep making these videos. Let me know if you have another movie you'd like me to watch in the comments below. And as usual, all of my social media will be posted in the description of this video. So if you'd like to come hang out on Twitch, if you want random short form content on Instagram or TikTok, that's there too. And if you'd like to directly support my channel, you are more than welcome to join my Patreon. Every second Sunday of the month, we have a movie night where we hop on Discord and just goof off while we watch a movie together. Once again, thank you so much for watching this video. I hope you enjoyed it half as much as I enjoyed making it for you. And remember, I'm Matt Hall, and if you don't have the time or don't want to spend the dime, let me watch that for you. Bye-bye!